Game of Thrones Q Edition, Chapter 9, Gargoyles and Golden Locks. From your bard in the north, Canadian psychic medium, Tracey Milne. The following story is fictional and for entertainment purposes only. Any likeness to people living or dead is purely coincidental. We hope you enjoy our story. Greetings, friends. When last we left our band of heroes, the King of Trumpets had gone into exile with his family in an attempt to keep them safe from the zombie strawman enforcement teams and bespelled spies. In the days that followed the strawmans falsely taking the throne, the plan to zombify the world's population had been ramped up, with millions of innocent people falling prey to their deadly potion designed to turn people into cyborgs. While the Spider Queen was back out of hiding and weaving her wicked spells each hour on the hour, luring new crones and sorcerers to her underground lair with the promise of gold she did not possess. While the people of Terra continued to be locked in their homes, with strange new regulations coming out daily. In short, things had gone from bad to worse. Our story picks up in the early hours of the holiday that celebrates the return of spring to the land of Asu, when the Queen of Possibilities was awakened by a loud clamor in the corridor outside her sleeping chambers. Sounding a silent alarm to her men in the garrison far below, the Queen armed herself with a sword before moving to her door, opening it so quietly that only a small whoosh of air could be heard by any ears close enough to hear. On tiptoes, the Queen gingerly made her way along a corridor, finding nothing and no one until she came to the top of the stairs that led to the great room below, where she heard the intruder long before she saw them. Moving to a shadowy pocket at the base of the stairs, the Queen scanned the room, searching for the source of the rustling sounds coming from her bookshelves. It took a few minutes to locate the culprit as her eyes adjusted to the soft silver glow in the room below, provided by the moonlight streaming from the high windows, revealing to her a large, hooded figure moving around her study, scattering books and papers all over the floor as the intruder searched every nook and cranny of the Queen's study, the thick hood covering the wearer's face. The intruder was speaking into a communication device at their wrist, but who they were or who they were talking to was still to be revealed to the Queen. In the silence around her, she heard the soft whisper of a man's voice saying, "No, I have not found it yet. Yes, I need those rings in order to open the portal and get the codes. And they are not where I thought they would be." The voice that answered in return was very soft, too soft to identify, but an angry resonance of response rang through the corridors as a muffled yell came, "Leave it to me. Don't worry about the Queen. By the time I'm finished with her, we will have all the gold and the codes, and no more Queen of Possibilities to contend with. Just be patient, friend. She still doesn't suspect a thing. And we're closer than ever to having everything we want, the gold, the slaves, and control of the portal over to the other lands." He finished, clicking off the communication device. He began emptying the Queen's libraries, knocking books to the ground and opening others, using magic words and symbols, unleashing things that were better kept locked away. Before the Queen could fully process what she was hearing or the reason for this visit, another person entered the room as the familiar voice of her trusted companion, the tank, asked softly, "What you looking for, buddy?" The intruder turned with a hiss, pulling back his long hood to reveal the familiar face of the Viking of Valor. His eyes had changed and were no longer warm and kind, now glowing under some kind of spell, changing the normally friendly man into a zombie-like foe. "Where is she?" the Viking asked Tank, nailing him with an energy blast that sent Tank reeling into the hall, losing his footing. Tank's surprised yell had the Queen sinking deeper into the shadows as she waited to see what her companions would do or say, all the hair on the back of her head standing up. "Where is she?" the Viking asked as Tank returned to the room, scanning all of the books on the shelf and dropping them here and there. "She who?" Tank asked, stepping closer in the hopes of disarming his once friend. "Goldilocks," the Viking hissed, growing more angry with each question. "The queen, you fool! Where's the queen?" the Viking barked. "I need her to give me back my rings. She stole my rings and I want them back," he roared, opening an entire row of books with one magic spell. He turned, staring at his once old friend, and said again, "Where is the queen, you fool?" But Tank just smiled and said, "Rings? What rings? You don't wear any rings, my brother." "I gotta ask, you don't look so good. Are you feeling all right?" "Going to do this the hard way, are you?" the Viking said, pulling back his lips in a deadly sneer as he reached into his belt, retrieving a small vial of bright green liquid with a skull stopper on top. He popped it and gulped it in one fell swoop. "I really expected nothing less," laughed the Viking maliciously as he began to choke on the potion. Tank wasn't sure what was going to happen, but he had seen enough potions in his life to know it was time to get out of sight, and quickly. The Viking threw back his head, letting out a blood-curdling cry as his body began to transform. Without a thought, Tank found the queen and grabbed her hand as they began to run full speed down the corridors and down layers and layers of stairs until they reached a hidden room that only the queen knew about. Pushing a small hidden button on long-forgotten armor, the door to the room pushed open, just enough to let them in on silent footsteps before they sealed the door with a large enchanted bolt. Only then could they breathe and begin to process what they had seen in the rooms above. "Where are we?" Tank asked, looking around the long-forgotten and very feminine room. "This was my first room," the queen shared, moving to an alcove that held books and cosmic tools. Though she was shaken with the knowledge that one of her closest allies wanted to take all she had before killing her, it took more than betrayal to send her screaming in surrender. And so, firing up some ancient communication technology, the queen sent a distress signal with a warning to her galactic allies before sending word to her other warriors, instructing them to leave the castle and meet her at a secret forest hideout just after sunrise. Feeling more empowered by her actions, the queen moved to a very old, long-forgotten chest and unlocked it, opening the lid slowly to reveal the treasures within. Reaching in gently, the queen retrieved a sword, unlike any ever forged upon this world, its thin handle made of the purest titanium, supporting a blade made of pure diamonds, fabled to be able to cut giants in half with a single swipe. Beneath the sword lay her long-forgotten golden armor, a gift on her 21st naming day from her first love, an elven prince no longer of this world. The queen hadn't worn it in years and wondered if she could still fit its snug confines, but the armor is made of enchanted fey gold, able to morph into form of its wearer, and so in no time the queen had fully armed herself. Opening another hidden chest, the queen then armed Tank with enchanted armor that included a powerful gauntlet made of golden crystals and held together by magic, and a deadly broadsword to wield. The castle was eerily quiet as they moved back into the hallway, and even the queen's shallow breathing could be heard bouncing off the walls. The brave warriors moved through the castle halls in slow circles, being sure to cover each other's backs on all sides, and they had made it back up to the main level when suddenly a shrill cry rattled down the hallway they were in as an enormous stony figure burst through the air, its wings and screams creating a blood-curdling, booming echo down the hallway. They broke off in separate directions right before the form of an enormous stony gargoyle with massive wings flew into sight. This had once been the Viking of Valor, and now he was out for their blood. Honing in on the queen, he chased her, screaming, "Where are my rings? give me back my rings, as he moved large pillars, trying to attack her every time she moved into a new location. She ran behind a large pillar and waited for her attacker to move past her before she jumped from her hiding place, slicing one of the large stony ankles, nearly taking the foot off before she dove away to move closer to Tank and an exit should she need one. Screaming in pain and throwing back his head, the foul fiend howled, "You'll die for that, but first give me my rings!" He thundered, falling to the ground under the weight of his own body by a leg that could no longer support itself. It didn't matter. He started crawling towards the Queen, screaming, "Give me back my rings!" Suddenly, Tank jumped between the Queen and the gargoyle, shouting, "You want your rings, big guy?" just as he pulled back the sleeve to reveal the enchanted wrist gauntlet, gently tapping on the crystals before drawing his sword. The gargoyle was now only 3 feet away, the walls around him beginning to break as he continued to smash them with his large rings, when the wristband on Tank's hand began to glow and hum, sending an enormous, swirling portal bursting to life in the air between himself and his stony foe. "You want your rings, old man?" Tank shouted again. "Then go get them," he said, touching the gauntlet once more, as the portal began to draw the large beast closer and closer to its expanding form. The portal began to suck the gargoyle into it, drawing it deeper and deeper into its center, until suddenly, with a great burst of light, the portal disappeared on itself and was gone, leaving nothing but a small, glowing burst in the air behind it. Shaken but uninjured, they began to make their way back towards the great hall, when Tank broke the silence by saying, "This thing is officially my favorite new toy." The Queen just nodded and smiled, lost in her own thoughts. Before Tank added, "Oh yeah, and one more thing. In case I haven't told you lately, I'm really glad I'm on your side. And now, well, now, the Viking of Valor has disappeared to where no one can be sure, and the King of Trumpets is still in exile, while the straw man's false reign still runs amok. What will happen next? Stay tuned and find out in our next chapter of this Game of Thrones 2021. Until then, sweet dreams.